Scott,
All right.
I love your work. I show your work. I love your wife's work. But I wanted to do just a little dive into really this painting.
Fun,
You know, we're at the Prix West, and you have you know, one of the things I find about your work so interesting is that I never know what it's going to be, right? It can be from Native American to African American to Vaquero, whatever it is. But when I came through this group of artwork, you have 4 pieces. This one's terrific too. This one for me stuck out.
Oh, cool.
And on a variety of levels. And maybe you could just talk
First,
about...
I'm curious on what stuck out to you, because it's interesting to hear people's reactions. You get so caught up in it. It's neat to see what other people's reactions
so I just
are.
spent 3 weeks in Europe and looking at, you know, Van Goghs and modern art and old masters and the like. A lot of things that were from that 20s and 30s period especially. And when I see this, in fact, I want to just put on my glasses too, because it literally will allow me to see why I got so excited when I saw it.
Yeah.
And the thing that really blew my mind on this is that there's a Fescinesque kind of sensibility in a way. That, you know, the face we can see, it's haunting, and it's this just emotional gestural paint that, I mean, I can feel the you know, I don't know what you want to call it. For me, it's almost a pain that comes through on how thick this is, and then the darkness around it, but you have this kind of angelic face that pops. But she's got a little sense of sadness to her.
Yeah.
And so, to me, it's kind of a dark but hopeful painting.
Yeah.
And that's all encompassed in a single, fairly small piece that has so many different types of sensibilities to me, with the thick paint and then the abstractness on the back, but this fashion, very close, tight look. I mean, and even the little things, I see these dots and I think tears, but you know, it's just emotional reaction. So to me, it wasn't a painting. This is what I always look for in a painting, and I find it often in your paintings, by the way. It's something that pops for me, that emotionally grabs me, and I can't stop looking.
I'm so happy to hear your reaction. And it's nice too, because a lot of times when people are asking me about things, especially if we're artists, they're interested in the technical stuff too.
Yeah.
And the technical stuff's important, and I'll talk about that.
Right.
You know, how did you do this the paint and stuff? And that's all part of it. But the emotional thing is, of course, what matters most to me and to Sue when we do our work, you know? So it's fun hearing you, since before I told you anything about who it is or what my intentions were, how you did pick up on a lot of the emotional things that in some ways almost come through unconsciously when I paint it, because I know the person. And I'm not even like thinking specifically, what do I need to make to get that slight tragic, or the slight this or that and everything. And so that was cool to hear that before I even told you what I thought about it, because I love to hear that from people too before I tell them you know, who it is and stuff. So,
and there's a lot for me in this painting.
I
mean, it took me a minute or more than a few minutes just to describe.
And I like to have that. I also like to have it where it's not just like hitting you over the head with, you know, this is the, you know, it's like a cartoon of a tragedy or whatever. Oftentimes when I do something which I'm trying to paint something, like when we were in Tibet, and I wanted to get the sense of the tragicness when we saw people being arrested in the street from the police. Now, I took pictures from afar of that, but what ended up painting the reactions of people who were looking at that. So you don't even really know what they're looking at, but that emotion is what I wanted to get. More than just you seeing it, and, you know, and saying this is a tragic thing, you know. But then you're wondering, what is that person seeing? And later you can tell them the story or not even tell the story, but they're getting that emotion.
Yeah, and if you get the painting right, you don't even have to know the backstory.
Right, and so a lot of times sometimes I don't even like to give too much explanation.
I get it.
Because I like people to imagine what it could be. But it's fun to also say what it is. So this model, not model, is so Sue had her mother, Sue's sister had, one of her children was Erin, who is her mother. And Erin, when she was this age and later, would stay with us a lot of times in Chicago, her and her brother, and as they grew up. And her mother was single, had a bad divorce. And so Erin grew up, and we have lots of paintings. Richard Schmid painted her. We would have her
Oh,
pose
wow.
of the palette and chisel.
Right,
In fact, his new book has one
yeah.
that he did. We all did together. And Erin grew up, and she moved to Nevada, and she had a baby with another person who's a lovely person who was a immigrant, became a citizen, was from Guatemala, and so he was a very native looking.
Right.
And Willow was their daughter.
Okay.
Now they went through issues, drug issues, things like that, which she came out of later.
Right.
But at the time, she realized, and she would call us, and we would just say, you have to do what's right for Willow. We'll help you and stuff. And so she ended up actually having Willow go to her sister when she was very little, maybe 2. And so her sister has raised her as her mother for all this time.
Oh, yeah,
And
there
so Willow, who's Erin's daughter, she would come visit us in North Carolina, and when we were in Chicago, we would see her and take her around. So we've known her since. So Willow is now in her early 20s and doing all kinds of great things in Chicago and stuff. This is a photograph I took of her one time when she was visiting us in North Carolina. And I think it was the first time actually when I would take her like river, we'd take her on, we have river and stuff, so we'd take kayaking and all these sorts of things, and we would draw. And in fact, in this particular one, we went to my studio, and since she's from Chicago, she was terrified because there was a wasp in the room, okay? And so it was so funny because she was like, oh my God, what, a wasp, and she was just afraid of it. So I caught it in a jar, and I put it down there. We were doing a drawing lesson, her and her cousin. And I said, okay, well, I want you to draw this wasp, okay? And so she looked at it, and she drew it for like 15 minutes and gave it a name and all this stuff and all these things. And by the time she was done with it, she was like, oh my God, you're not going to kill it, are you? No, you're going to set it outside. We're going to let it go. So I heard, I just took it off, and she let it go. And so over the years, we'll come visit, we'll see her, and all these fun things. So I tell way more stories about Willow. The last time she was here, she's totally into cars now. She works at a car place. And she said, do you have any places with their old cars? I was like, there's a 50-acre place, because we're in the country, that has all old cars going back to the 20s. So Sue and I went with her, and Sue said, well, I'll come back later, because it's all muddy and all this stuff. It wasn't her thing, but we were there for 3 hours, and she just loved it. But so that is who this is, okay? Now, when I painted this a few months ago, kind of just randomly, because I have all these beautiful photographs that I've taken of Willow over the years, when we've seen her. And so Sue does this Patreon thing, and she wanted me to do a little demo for her Patreon thing. And give the photo to all the students too, to do to paint, and I would do a lesson, they would be painting from the same photo. So I have so many that I love of Willow. So I just picked this one because I wanted to show them a little bit how to do backlighting. Okay. And so I started this, I did maybe 2 hours, I think, for live. Sue videoed it, it was live for our Patreon group. And so I painted it, blocked in a lot of it and everything like that. And then that was the lesson, I set it aside. And then maybe 3 or 4 months later, I decided I'm going to work more on this. And I didn't quite have it right. I didn't quite have the emotion right, the feeling right. It was more of a technical explanation. And so, in which I do a lot of times. I will set it aside, let it dry thoroughly, get a fresh eye, and then I repaint it. Pretty much repaint a lot of it. I mean, I have the other stuff underneath. Some of this stuff is from the early part. But I repaint it, and I don't look at the photograph again. A lot of the paintings here are like that too. The first half, or even less, I'll do with looking at the model or looking at the photo if they're done from life. Some are done from life, and some are from photos. And then I repaint it, and it's all about trying to get that emotion, that feeling that I have about it. And so I just kept working. I worked on it, and I finally felt I got this feeling of her. And what exactly things are these stars showing through? Are they what? People will ask that. It's like, I don't really know. It felt like it needed something. Technically, as you're talking about like Van Gogh and things like that, I love those sorts of painters, and I've been trying to push myself a lot in the last couple of years to really go beyond the more kind of almost literal. I play with abstract brushwork and backgrounds and things, but I'm pushing it further to try to mix the real and the abstract. And so these things balance the realistic part, and then technically, I love putting in some 2-dimensional with 3-dimensional. So the outlines, I'm doing that in several paintings, where the outlines kind of separate it out and give you a 2-dimensional, almost like muka sort of a feel.
Okay.
And then within the face, okay, so I have some darker darks that happen back here,
Right.
in the outline stuff, but even the darkest darks in the eyes, if we were able to like isolate them in Photoshop, you'd see these are like 3 values lighter than these, okay, even though they look dark here. So in here, I tried to keep all the values really close together. So even the darks in the nostrils, like in the photograph, these look black, okay, these darks, all right? But when you look at something from life and they're backlit, you have a really dark background, this is what you'll see if you compare that to the background. So that gives it a realism, but it also went with this ethereal feel of her,
Yeah, very much so. There's
to have
definitely
that ethereal feel of you barely see her. I mean, it's like, because these values are all smushed together into maybe like 3-value range, okay? And you know, so they're very close. You see underlighting that's bouncing back and everything, but nothing in there is far apart as they are, like these sorts of things. So that's the technical idea behind trying to get the emotional context of it. And every painting is different. So other paintings, you have a different mood that you're going for. And again, sometimes I'm just doing it and trying to say, does this feel right to me?
Yes.
And it's funny because we had a model that we painted one time when we first moved to North Carolina. And this beautiful girl, she was a waitress. We asked her to pose. We didn't even know models back then. I did one painting of her, and it came out great. It was just like what we thought she was like. But then she had such a tragic life, and she was doing things. She was arrested for drunk driving, for this and that. And it was so sad that I did another painting of her, and Sue's like, but you painted her so sad. I mean, who's going to buy a painting? I was like, I don't think she's sad. I think it's just because you know her.
That's
you know?
right. You can see her emotion.
But then when I sent it to the gallery, they're like, oh, we love this painting, but why did you make her look so sad? You know, I was like, I didn't even realize.
Right. Well,
And
that happens
so that's,
for artists.
It
If
really
they're doing it
does.
right. It comes really from the gut.
You can't even control it.
You
And
don't
that's
want
why
to control it.
You don't want to control it.
Right.
And so again, it's like Sue says, she really likes doing more uplifting things almost always. And she says, I cannot paint somebody, the way she'll say it, unless I'm in love with them.
Yeah.
You know, she just loves them, their personality and everything.
Right.
And it's and just also, even, you know, Willow is growing up now and she's going out to the world and doing things and stuff, and a lot of it too, when I look at these old pictures, a lot of it's about the hope that we have for her.
Yeah,
So
I mean,
she's
there
come
is a
from,
sense of that.
She came from a tragic thing. I mean, she
Yeah.
was very on the brink of being lost into this world, you know, of that her mother had fallen into and got out of. But it's, you know, it's, you know, that all, I think, for me, just comes out, and that's part of why
Probably why I like your art.
I do it, you know. And but other paintings, you may have different feelings, and especially when you take pictures of people who you don't even know. You know, you're out at a powwow or something. You tend to just then what you're imagining, like that waitress, you're imagining a particular thing, which isn't bad either, you know.
Yeah.
And,
no, I mean, and honestly, I think as an artist, that when, and a lot of it goes to what you're feeling yourself that day, that moment, that year. If you have grief or tragedy in your own life, that's going to come out, even if you don't maybe want it to.
And you'll even maybe just choose subject because you're drawn to that because it's reflecting what you feel.
That's exactly right.
And like each painting, though, it's like I want that emotion to come through, even though don't know the person. You can still feel that emotion.
Yeah.
So like, you know, that's of Danica. I have one in Danica who is she pushes wheelchairs at the airport, and we just love her, and she's just a wonderful person, you know.
Yes.
And then we met the family of the horse riders, and then that girl's a girl who poses for us, and
you have you have a connection.
We have a connection,
which
and
helps.
I think when you have that connection, it'll come through, even if the people never meet the model.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
To me, that's always been the challenge to me. I remember when I first started trying to sell paintings of people, and they were mostly Western galleries because they were the only ones doing really realistic things back then, you know.
Right.
And they're like, I don't know why anybody would want to buy a painting of someone they don't know, you know. And they're like, well, would you do commissions of their families? And I'm like, I really don't want to do commissions, you know. And they say, well, why would someone put a picture of somebody they don't know on their wall? And I'm like, that's the test.
Yeah.
When you paint someone's daughter or whatever, of course they're going to like it.
Right.
But is it really emotional work of art? Is it really gone beyond just being a rendering of something? you know that you succeeded when someone looks at something, like you said, I look at this and I was like, I got an emotional reaction.
Correct, I did.
Then, and you don't even know the person.
Nope.
That's why it was like, even before I told you the story,
Yep.
that's what I want,
Yep.
is I don't want to be talking people into it.
Yeah.
I want them to first have that connection. And to me, that's the challenge of doing people like that, like portraits, because, and it's not like, oh, they're stupid or whatever if they don't buy your painting. It just means you did not actually touch them with that. You didn't do it
in a
well
way
enough. And so that's always the challenge. And sometimes I'll repaint things until I feel that, and hopefully other people will. So.
Well, look at the most famous painting in the world, the one that everybody knows.
Mona Lisa?
The Mona Lisa, right?
Yeah.
And it's her eyes and that sense of whatever, however you want to interpret it.
Yeah.
Right? So.
And people just debate over and over, who is this? Trying to figure out who this was. And
exactly.
Yet, that human,
she was a person.
mystery and just drawing you into it. That's what draws me to do paintings of people.
Yeah, I get it.
And I oftentimes, it's like I'm not interested. It's like, oh, that person doesn't interest me. And then you meet them, and you get to hear their story, and you get to know them, and you're like, all of a sudden, it's so funny. It's like, God, you'd be so cool to paint. And it's really weird how that happens.
No, I get it.
The flip side happens. You meet somebody, you're like, oh my God, you'd be fantastic painting. Then you meet them, I was like, oh no.
Yeah, there's nothing there.
I really couldn't paint you.
Well, you got to feel.
And if I did, it wouldn't look very good.
No, I think for you, and I'm making an assumption, but you have to have that emotional pull, or it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
So that was in this painting.
Well, thank you.
When I saw it, it drew me in instantaneously. And so people who are listening to this on Our Dealer Diaries, go to YouTube version so you can see it, so you can see what we're talking about. We're filming this in a busy area that's, for Prix to West. But, it's, it definitely worked. It definitely worked.
Oh, thank you.
And every time I see it, I get the same immediate reaction I did. And it's not just the emotional thing, but it's also the way the paint was put down emotionally for me.
I want to work it on two levels.
Yeah.
So like you can look at a rock that has all this weathering and moss and stuff, and it can be like beautiful. You're like, oh my God, that's beautiful. And then I want to also have the human element or the subject too. So I really, it's not enough for me to just get it right on that. I want it to be on both levels.
That's what I like.
Yeah.
So.
Well, thank you.
All right, Scott. Thank you for explaining that. This particular piece, because it is one of the pieces that literally, when my son and I came up to it and we're looking at, I'm just immediately stopped. I'm like, oh my God. And sat here for quite a while looking at it. And I wanted to understand what was going on in your life, basically, in a weird way, to how that happened, because I really felt like there's an emotional charged piece.
And that does happen where we'll take photographs. We take so many photographs and trips into people we know. And it's funny because you'll go back, like when Sue sent me a picture of, you'll pick one and you'll be like, why didn't I pick that? That's the best one, and then later you'll be like, there's another one you like. So it is you're changing. The photo hasn't changed.
Right.
So it's interesting how that happens.
She's 20 and this is when she's 7.
She's maybe 21 or right. She's probably 7 or something right then. So, and it is kind of fun to look back. Well, thank you,
Scott. Thank you again. Appreciate
that was really
it.
fun.
You're an amazing artist.
Thank you for
We're happy
filming
that we
this.
get to have you in our
wonderful.
gallery, and your wife in our gallery, and this particular painting, I know will sell.
Thank you. Well, that's a whole other thing.
I know, and it does, and that's not why you do it, and I get it.
Well, and if it doesn't, then it hasn't found the right person.
That's right.
And that's one of the less stressful things for us is we only have to sell one. Connect with that one person.
Yes.
Now, if you were doing prints or something, you've got to sell thousands and thousands. That's a whole other thing you have to think about. So that's the nice thing is when you find the person who connects with it, it's so nice. Like you just sold a painting for me that I'd had in my Rex forever. I didn't really think it was a super sellable painting, but someone connected to it. And I was like, I'm so happy because that emotion that I felt. Yeah. Just that right person.
They do feel that. Yeah. They do feel that with your work. I've noticed that.
Yeah.
They're like me. If they get it, they get it.
Yeah.
When somebody gets art and creativity on an emotional, deep, individual level.
And we all have our own, like you said, the artist has its own experience. We all have our own experiences.
That's right.
When I've had paintings in here of Native Americans and stuff in the powwows, they react on a different level to
Yeah.
Like we'll all see different paintings, or people who have horses.
Right, exactly.
They've grown up with these things.
That's
and
right.
So it's really neat to see how we're bringing ourselves to these things, and
we're
they'll have different
humans.
meanings for us.
Yeah, that's what art is, right?
So,
That's humanity, whether you go back to
Yeah.
horse paintings on walls and things.
It would probably be bad if every single person liked only one painting, you know?
Yeah.
You know, you'd be like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And that would be a movie.
Yeah, well, you can make it. You can write the book.
I can write the book. I don't know if I want to
Love
make
your
the movie.
books, by the way.
All right. Thank you, Scott, for taking the time.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
that was fun.
good luck.